All right. Hi, everybody. Thank you for joining the AI discussion. There's been a lot of conversation about AI today, wonderful seller interviews, a lot of new features being introduced today. So I'm so excited to lead a discussion today around AI. Today, we're going to touch on a few of the AI tools, and many of you are probably familiar with it. And I see there are already some questions in our Q&A about it. We'll dive into each one and talk through them. Please continue to drop questions in the Q&A. So my name is Janet. I work in the eBay AI organization, and I have a couple of colleagues joining me today who you'll see them very active in the chat, especially in the Q&A. One is Marida Morales, and she is one of the leaders in the seller experience product team. And so she's very familiar with a lot of the tools that we have and how to, in general, really be an advocate for our sellers and try to make high quality listings that just really convert and sell on eBay. And then the second guest we have, or not guest, co-host we have today is Hongda Shun, and he is one of the researchers in the AI organization. And he will be here in case you guys have any interesting tech questions and you want to hear it directly from the source. So with that, let's get started. The agenda today, there's a few different AI tools that we'll talk about. And I know in general we use the word AI tools as this umbrella term. And really what we really want to focus on today is a few of the ways that we really make AI available to our seller community. The first one is the listing description. And this is probably something many of you have tried and really want to hear your feedback in the chat. The second is the photo backgrounds. This includes the removal, the white backgrounds, and also these AI generated backgrounds. And you heard Heather speak about how we do some research around these generating AI generated backgrounds in the AI organization. And then the final one is listing from a photo. So this is something internally we call it magical listings, and it's just really from a photo. How much can you do with it and really just make the listing process as seamless and as easy as possible while still keeping it a very high quality, high converting listing. So we'll start here with listing description. And this is, I hope many of you have tried it before, and I know there's a lot of good feedback out there. This is something that is live in all of our listing flows, and you'll find that with the touch of a button, generate AI description, you're able to have an AI generate kind of a couple of paragraphs for you that really describe your product. And this is based off of all the information that you've either entered or the AI has been able to infer from the information that you've provided. So we have our titles, we have our categories, we have a lot of our item specifics at this time. And what we try to do is just create a really compelling description that'll help the buyer understand what they're going to buy, and ideally create a situation where the buyer knows what they're going to get. The seller is able to tell the customer, exactly what they have, and make the buyer more likely to want to buy this item. We've gotten a lot of feedback that this AI generated description is really able to help a seller, go through the listing flow much more quickly. And in the past, this was a field that I think tend to stump a lot of our sellers. So this is the first AI capability that we're talking about today. And you'll see here, I'm not sure if you can see my screen, but you'll see here a little AI mark. And this is kind of a signal that we use to indicate that there's something happening in the background with AI. And that way our seller community is aware that by clicking a button or by following clicking a button that has that little AI logo on it, they're about to experience kind of an AI experience. The second one is a way for our customers to save time and create just a really high quality photo that really showcases what the seller has to sell and make this listing really enticing for our buyers. And of course, the goal is to prevent returns and really properly communicate what we have here. So there's a couple of features that are built into the backgrounds. The first one is background removal, which we had already had a few years ago. And this is just taking the item, the product that in your listing image, and removing the background. It could be a white background, it could be a color background. And then what we've released in the past year and a half is this AI generated background. And we will create, there's various kinds of backgrounds that you can select in the app, but one of the main areas of research is what are some backgrounds that really showcase the item that you have that makes sense in the context, in the right context. So in this case, you would want to, let's say, see a shoe in a certain environment in a certain lighting condition. And that's what our AI generated background would aim to create for you. And the third tool that is creating a listing from an image is currently available in an experience called Bling. It's a bulk listing flow for the PC or for the desktop. And what you can do is with a single photo, the AI will generate the entire draft for you. So based on the photo, we'll try to extract as much as we can. We'll try to fill in as much as we can and make it so that there's less burden on the sellers to have to fill in every single piece of information individually, especially when you have bulk a lot of listings, right? You have 50 or so listings. You want to make it so that you can just really click, click, click and be done with the process. And so for this one, there's a lot of AI happening in the background. There are different models that are kick into effect. Very happy to field Q&A if anyone has any specific questions about this. And the outcome of the after you upload the photo or many photos, 50, 100 plus photos, then we create drafts for you and make it really easy to publish all of your listings at once. So those are the three AI listing tools that we wanted to walk through today. And from now, we will go through the chat and the Q&A and can answer any questions that the team have. So thank you all for dropping so many questions in chat. And thank you to Marida and Hongda for already helping us answer a lot of these. I'll start with Matthew's question, Matthew H, about the further integration with TCG Player to assist with image recognition. So this is a very good question that the team and I are very passionate about. We found, so honestly, I can't speak to the kind of the corporate part, the mergers and acquisitions part, and the corporate strategy component. What I can talk about is that there's a lot of learnings from each other with the AI, and there's a lot of work that we're doing to try to see how we can leverage the really, really rich information that TCG Player has. And of course, all of the, not just the information, but a lot of the touch points that they have with customers and the loyalty and the understanding, the very deep understanding they have, especially in the trading card space, and how we can use this to improve the experience for our sellers. So for example, here, one of the teams, the researchers, Hongda, is regularly exploring what are some data that we have available and what are some experiences that we could make live to our sellers so that either like around computer vision and image recognition and card recognition and catalog ID recognition to try to make the listing process as seamless as possible and as high fidelity as possible. But that's a good question, Matthew, and I wonder if there's something we could do to reach you out offline to see if there's some additional information or other ways that our customers and our sellers could really feed the platform so that we could continue improving these AI models and making the tools more valuable for the community. There's an anonymous question, and Hongda's already answered it, but I've heard a few people ask so far now, which is that are the AI tools and the capabilities different on different devices? And yes, they are. So we have background removal available on all devices, but AI generated backgrounds are only available on mobile. I'm not aware of plans to expand, but I do think that is valuable feedback if there's a lot of requests and desired usage on native devices for tools that aren't available. I do encourage you to let us know, and that's something that we could take into account in our planning and our prioritization. Going through more questions. These AI descriptions from Sui G, are all of these AI descriptions and backgrounds only available on the eBay app? If so, when will they be available on the desktop computer? For AI descriptions, they are already available on the desktop, I believe, but for the background, that's not something that we have for mobile yet. Stephanie, you've asked a very good question. Stephanie Shaw, does using the eBay generated AI description increase ranking in search? This is something that it requires for sure a lot of analysis. And I know the team, both the search team, the selling team, the AI teams, all of the teams are thinking about how best to make it so that we are using the right signals. So I can't directly answer that, but it is something that is definitely an analysis topic within the team. Be Blazy, is there a selection to have AIs be less wordy other than modified description myself? Thank you for the feedback. That's definitely feedback we've heard from other sellers, that perhaps the tone of voice isn't consistent with how the seller generally creates descriptions for themselves. So this is an area of research. I don't have details on when this might roll out, but it's an area of research and feedback that we've received from many of our sellers to try to find a way to have the tone of voice better mimic what our sellers would use, or even in some individualized way. That would be ideal, I think. Corey Glisson, hello, I sell antiques, vintage, nearly all breakables, and was in the top 5% of dinnerware sellers last year on eBay. I would like to use AI for my listings to grow my business, but vintage items tend to be very unique in their nature. I love Marida's answer here, is that capturing the fact that these items are vintage or pre-owned. And this is also just a really interesting area of research for us, because so many of our products are one of a kind. And so we're not just trying to figure out, what is that TV model? What is that iPhone model? But finding a way to extract out just the really relevant aspects and the relevant parts, features of our unique and vintage pre-owned items, so that we can really showcase this for our buyers. This is definitely an interesting area of research as well, and it changes the way that we approach the problem, I think, than a lot of other e-commerce players would. And would definitely love to hear your feedback. One more question from B Blazy, which is, when using AI to fill in detailed section, is the seller responsible for any errors? We do strongly encourage the sellers to very carefully review all of the generated text. It is very important to have kind of human eyes on it, because of course we all know AI can make errors. And in this case, the seller does need to very carefully review and make sure everything is properly and accurately represented to the buyer. Paul Kemp has a question around that bulk listing flow that I shared earlier. Let me see if I can scroll back. So if you click submit on the list via photo, does it publish the listing or just make it a draft? So here, there's a flow that it goes through, and when you click submit, and you submit all your photos, the first step is it comes back with the draft. It comes back with a grid kind of view where you see all of the listings that you are about to create and a lot of the details in it. So for example, let's say you're trying to list a handful of trading cards of Pokemon cards. You'll see one row per unique card, and you could have 2-3 photos attached to each one. And you'll have an opportunity to review all of the details in that listing, just to make sure the AI didn't make any mistakes. You can imagine, especially for cards, there are a lot of cards that look similar. So from the photo itself, we may want the seller to just absolutely verify that the card is a certain hollow or a certain foil or certain finish and things like that. So it'll just be the drafts. Christina Williams, when will AI generated drafts from photos be available? This is something that's available now in the bulk listing flow. So for this, you have to go over to Seller Hub, and you'll see a way to click into a bulk listing flow. Anywhere where you see the words bulk listing flow, it should lead you to this experience. And I really encourage you all to test it out. Cindy Stewart has a good question of, I thought it was better or might have just been answered. Okay, Marida's answer is phenomenal. I'll just let you all read it directly from the Q&A. Carly Bull City Magnolias. Where do we find the third thing that you showed us? I believe you're also talking about the bulk listing flow. And for this, you would navigate over to Seller Hub and you would look for you might have to scroll down a little bit. You would look for the text that says bulk listing flow. And this is a bit different depending on your seller configurations and whether you're a store seller or like a large bulk seller versus like a consumer to consumer seller. And Pamela, thank you for the feedback, Pamela B. Please make backgrounds available on desktops. Thank you for that. We will definitely pass it along and make sure the right people hear it. We have an anonymous question of where do you find this magical listing feature? Is it on mobile or desktop or both? And for this, it depends on the feature. For the bulk listing experience, it's only on the desktop. And for the background removal, the background removal is available on all devices, but for the background, AI generated backgrounds, that is only on mobile at the moment. We have a question of, is it possible to integrate seller policies into the AI generated listing? This is a really interesting question because right now, the information that we use to generate the listing to generate the AI description is essentially just the listing details that you have that are kind of above the fold, if that makes sense, of where you generate the description. So we essentially have the title, we might have the category, we have a lot of item specifics, but we don't yet have the seller specific details. So I think this is a really interesting piece of feedback that we will definitely pass on to see if there's additional information that we can incorporate, especially if it's kind of a fixed phrase per seller and you generally want to use the same language for all of your listings. I think that that would be a really valuable, sounds like it'd be a really valuable feature for you. So thank you for that feedback. Pamela B has a question of what type of products is the bulk listing tool for? I sell one-of-a-kind items. Would this tool help me? I think that's a good question because a lot of this tech comes from the single photo. And when your photo is a one-of-a-kind item, uh, I would expect the AI to not be as successful in extracting all of the important information about your one-of-a-kind item. Definitely encourage you to try it out. It's possible that it could be helpful in the situation where you're just trying to create a lot of listings at once. And the UI that the team have created for this bulk listing tool is pretty intuitive in that you can very quickly, almost like a spreadsheet, you can very quickly type in the very like distinctive features of each of your items, and it lays out each of the item specifics, each of the fields that you need to fill out in just a very clean way. So if you're the type of person that wants to type in a lot of things at once and you have it kind of all readily available, it could be a valuable tool for you to try out. From Melissa C, we have a question of how does this bulk listing AI feature differ from the individual listing creation? On the desktop, in the description feature, there's an AI button. Are they using the same LLM and which LLM? In this case, for the bulk listing feature, it's kind of a lot of different AI capabilities built into one. So you upload an image, and from there, we have kind of a whole suite of models that can run to try to figure out as much as we can from that image so that we can pre-fill or hint as much of the listing details as possible. And that way, either the seller just needs to, confirm it, or you can even pick from a drop down from a few different values. This is distinctive. It's not from an LLM, it's from some other computer vision models and some other models that have to do with kind of inferring different item specifics from other ones. Like the example I always try to use is if you know that Michael Jordan played for the Bulls in a specific year, then you would want to use that information to fill out as much of the listings as possible and also to make the listing as internally consistent as possible. And then that's the bulk listing AI where you start with a single photo. For AI description, this is indeed an LLM, and this is an LLM that takes all the information that we have about the listing, and we try to just create a couple paragraphs of text for you. For this LLM, there's a lot of internal research done in the AI org to build out the language model for this. And there's a good question with confused. Is the magical listing only available under bulk listing and only on the mobile app? For this one, and I might defer to Marida here, I kind of use magical listing as an umbrella term, which is really whenever we can use AI and try to make the experience as magical for the customer as possible. There are certain features that are available in bulk listings, certain features available on desktop, and certain features available on mobile. And so what you'll find is it could be a different feature set, and that also depends on your, the device capabilities you have, and also the general user interface that you would expect as you go through the flow. Of course, for example, a customer's mindset might and expectations would be a little bit different when they're listing on their cell phone versus listing on their desktop device versus trying to list in bulk with 50 to 100 at a time. I hope that clarifies things. And if not, please let me know and I'll take another stab at that question. Christina W. has a very good question. In regards to the multiple listings from photos, the last block requires a photo count. Do we need to have the same number of photos per item? Yes, we do. We understand that is something that could be challenging for customers. And for this iteration of this tool, you do currently have to have the same number of images per listing. Later, when you go through the flow, you do have an opportunity to add more images per listing. Just in the initial, we'll call it the figure a bunch of stuff out, use AI to figure out a bunch of stuff from the image alone. We do assume it's a fixed number of photos per listing. Will you be showing how to access? I have another question. Will you be showing how to access the AI feature on the mobile app? I don't have a way to demonstrate it today, but I can show you. Let's see. Here is one example of one of the AI features. And what you'll find is, excuse me, whenever you see this, we call it our AI symbol, and there's a little logo here. Whenever you see this, you'll understand that there's some AI working in the background. And where description generation shows up is when you go through the listing flow, and there's a couple of different ways that you can enter it. And essentially, right after you double check and you verify or you enter the details of your item, the product, like for example, what color is the sweater that you're selling? What is the character name of the collectible card game that you're selling? Directly under that, you should see a box for description. And as soon as you enter the description box, you should see a button that will say generate AI description. And by clicking that, it will take all the information that you've shared about the listing, the product that you're selling, and then it'll generate the 1 or 2 paragraphs to describe your product. Looking through the question, Tim N has a great question. What is the most exciting item coming to sellers in the future that isn't shown here? Oh, I love this question. We have a lot of research going on that maybe when it shows up, it's possible you won't even notice it, but that's what makes it so exciting, is that something just magically works. We just suddenly are able to, based on the image, help you fill in as much as possible. And my dream is for you to just click, 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 click. Let's give you a great shipping recommendation, a great price recommendation, fill out all of your listing details accurately and very quickly. And all you have to do is click submit your listing. And then the listing is created in a way that is very accurate, very high quality. Your photos are very appealing to buyers, and then someone will just hopefully buy it very quickly. And to me, that's the most exciting thing. But in terms of feature releases, I may have to defer to Marita and team who really own the feature release plan and the feature set available to our sellers. I love that question. Um, Orion K has a question around, will AI generation ever help with customer service responses between our buyers and us? Like when a buyer messages us about a SNAD, an item not as described, it would be nice if the response could be created without our personal emotions getting in the way of making them whole. Since it's usually a bummer when we get the bad news, AI could help us keep it positive and productive. That's a very, very good question. I've heard of some work around using AI to generate answers to like FAQs or with the actual customer service team. And AI kind of messaging in the member to member messages. I think I've heard of some betas there. I'm not sure how, the process, or I'm not sure about the progress of them or whether it's widely available yet. But that's something that I will double check on. And Orion K, if we can follow up with you or at least take your feedback and understand that this is something that would be valuable to the seller, it definitely makes sense. Okay, let me scroll up. Matthew H has a question of, will there be AI description integration for the multi-listing tool? Enjoy the feature on the single listing for trading cards would totally reduce time per listing average. That's a good question too, and that's something that we've discussed. It's uh, it's kind of a value proposition and a trade-off that we would need to learn to make. You can imagine that the LLM work, it can be time intensive and expensive, and we want to make sure that it is a tool that the bulk listing sellers would derive value from. So I have heard the team speak about it, and in fact, you heard from one of the owners of the flow earlier today, and that's also feedback that I'll pass along that some of our sellers would find it valuable. Okay. Thank you for all of your questions, and we'll keep hanging around here and making sure that there aren't some open questions where we can follow up on. If we've missed your question, please feel free to drop it in again or in the chat if there's any additional questions. I'll go through the chat now and also continue addressing anything that comes up. But I think this our session time is nearly wrapped up. And I just really want to extend a huge thank you to the sellers in our call who have taken the time to give us the feedback, to ask the questions. I love that you're asking how to even get the tool, right? It's our job to make the tool just really available to you, and your job to test it out and see if it can help you. And if it doesn't help you, please help us figure out how to make it help you, because that's our job. It's literally our job. Is if these tools can help you, then we have done a solid job. And so thank you so much for your time. It was such a pleasure. And I really appreciate my co-hosts today, Marita Morales and Hongda Shen, for answering so many questions. Thank you all. I know our time is probably over, but thank you, Carly, Bull City Magnolias, for asking the question. Where you can upload multiple photos, that's already available, and you would access it through Seller Hub, and there's a bulk listing tool. So look on the Seller Hub page to see if you can find the words bulk, BULK, listing tool, and you should be able to see a way of entering the UI that I have on my third tool here. All right, thank you all. See you all at the seller networking session starting now.